There we go. We're live.
Live. We're live and in living color. Took forever.
All right.
What's up, Universe, and welcome back to the web's first must-see comic and nerd culture show. Welcome to Comic Universe, guys. And today it is a duet with me and Dr. J. And we are talking about
Disenchantment, the new series from Matt Groening, or Groening, however you pronounce his last name. I never know how to say it.
and it is a Netflix original on top of that. And I must say, it was pretty awesome.
I fucking loved it. I also love the commercial for it where he was like, they give you that we've shown you the past, we've shown you the future with Futurama, we've shown you the present with The Simpsons, and now the only logical step is we're going to show you the past.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really liked it. And as somebody that like regularly plays D&D and loves like fantasy shit, I love that they got to take that kind of setting and like basically give it the Simpsons Futurama treatment. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm someone who I love just putting on old shows like Futurama, The Simpsons, Family Guy, American Dad. Sometimes to me, I'll even just have it on as ambient noise in the background while
Yeah.
I'm something cleaning, cooking, working on a computer, whatever it is, and it's just constantly something that me and the wife always play or watch, before we go to bed or whatever, just chilling. And to have a new show come out, I'm super stoked about it. I just couldn't. I was when I posted the video initially, the trailer during Comic-Con, I was like, man, I can't wait for this. This is going to be awesome. And
Oh yeah.
I think it really was.
It definitely lived up to my expectations. I think the voice cast was all very solid. Of course, we got some classic veterans from The Simpsons and Futurama, coming back. But I loved like some of the new guys up here.
I was and sometimes it was oh, who is that in Futurama, or who is that in The Simpsons? I was like, oh,
yep. Because I recognize some like right off the bat. Like the king is obviously Bender.
right,
Like the wizard guy with the three eyes is Kip.
yes.
And then I was trying to place some other ones.
Kip's name, I was like, who the hell is he? And it was driving me crazy. But I'll tell you what, though, this show, there was one or two times that I literally laughed out loud. I was dying in laughter. I couldn't stop laughing. And
one of my favorite jokes was the one where like she's trying to do like the odd jobs around the kingdom, and so she's like, and then the last one is like she's like, I'm a really good butcher. This is awesome. And he goes, this is a fucking pet shop. Get out.
Yeah,
I was dying.
For me, it was the subtleness, the joke where the king is telling what he's going to do to her cat, if you will. He's like, I'll pet him the wrong direction. Dude, I died. It was just a delivery. It was so random. And
Man.
Even petting a cat.
And what I like about this show is at first you think it's like this kind of like episodic type of thing where like not like it's just kind of one-off adventures, but then you start to realize, oh, they remember what happened last time. This actually does matter. And by the end, like you understand that this was actually one full story. Like everything built up to something.
I actually like that a lot. I'm someone who I like connection. I don't just watch a sitcom for whatever reason. I'm more of the type of person, I need a reason to come back to the show. If you don't give me a reason to come back, I may lose interest or just life finds a way to get in the way. So that with this, I was the same way. I was very surprised. I was going into it thinking it was going to be like Simpsons or Futurama, where you may have one or two episodes that are connected, but for the most part, they're just kind of all filler episodes. And this wasn't pretty much in sequence exactly what was going on in Bean's life, essentially. And I absolutely loved it, to be honest with you guys. And regardless of what the Rotten Tomato score says, those people, I just think just like Futurama wasn't appreciated in its time. It took for it to be taken off the air for people to freak out and bring it back to say they loved it. This is going to be one of those shows, I think, that's going to be right up there with it, because it's so much of the same humor, to be honest.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree, and I like that. The voice cast I thought did a phenomenal job. Eric Andre is somebody I've never found really all that funny, but him as Lucy is fucking hilarious.
Right.
I thought he was great. Elfo is my dude. Elfo is just so fucking funny.
I have a hard time deciding Lucy or Elfo. I one episode I'm like, oh, I'm all about Elfo. The next I'm like, oh, I'm all
Yep.
about Luke.
Exactly. And I just love Alpha. Hi, I'm Alpha. What's your name? Like,
Yeah, especially doing it constantly. I'm like, or when he killed the giant by mistake, and he's like, ooh. I'm like,
yeah, he's like, I'm glad you can't see this.
yeah, right. That was another one of the times I just died laughing. Wasn't
Oh
prepared.
man, he was great, and I love that like we got to see like the elf world again. One of the funniest jokes with Elfo is when they go back to Elfwood, and he meets up with his ex-girlfriend again, like the Ho Elf, and she's like, he was like, I have something to show you, and he goes, oh my god. Wait, it's only been a couple months, and she goes, "That's all it takes." And he goes, "Oh my god, I have a son." He goes, "No, actually, Elfo, I just came to tell you that I've moved on and have a new boyfriend, but he doesn't mind if we still mess around."
Yeah,
like,
he's all,
oh my god, that shit was hilarious.
Right. So, for any of you guys who don't really know what we're actually talking about, so this show is basically takes place in like fantasy medieval times, and we follow the story of Princess Bean, who essentially is this degenerate who doesn't want to live up to her royal duties, if you will, as a princess, and she's a raging alcoholic on top.
And she's a functional alcoholic, which is a staple for every Matt Groening show. You have Homer, then you have Bender, and now you have Bean.
Right, she's the Bender of this show essentially. And in the process, she ends up befriending a small elf by the name of Elfo, and she actually ends up getting not possessed, but she ends up having
bonded to a demon
that is being sent to her, basically follow her and cause
that plot line is never actually followed up on. Like they cut to it a couple of times, but they don't ever really like fully touch on that. I'm assuming they're just saving that for season 2.
Yeah, and the way it ended it didn't upset me because I get it. They left it on a cliffhanger to make you come back for season 2.
Yeah,
but I really upset that it just ended like that with them grabbing Elfo with no spoiler alerts on that one. But I was just like, no. I was like, how are they gonna just drop? I'm like, I kept going, and then I was like, at first I thought like when I was scrolling through Netflix, I didn't realize I clicked on the trailer. I was like, oh, good, there's another episode, and I was like, no, this is just the trailer. I was like, no. Man, yes, I was so pissed. But overall,
it had a really strong ending, even though it did end on a cliffhanger. And like the twist at the end, I definitely saw it coming. Like as soon as a certain character shows up again, I'm just like, they're probably gonna be evil.
Yeah, that's
like, yep.
Yeah. So also in the show, we find out that her mother was unfortunately turned to stone. Essentially, she was poisoned, and we find out that the poison was meant for her dad. But while she was a kid, she ended up basically the tray that the drinks sat on that were poisoned.
She switched the drinks,
by mistake, causing her mother to then feel.
I also just really like that kind of swerve, because the entire time of the show you think, oh, the reason the dad wants the elixir of life is because he's a selfish prick and he wants to be immortal and live forever. But then you find out he's trying to bring back his wife, and it's just like, oh shit, you are a nice guy, you're just a dick.
And then I felt sorry for his current wife, because he and her dad were getting remarried to this salamander slash
the lizard lady, and then like they have their son is Ralph,
right? And they have they end up having a son who's, I guess you would say, the heir to the throne once he gets old enough. And of course he's your typical pansy that's baby.
And he's Ralph, and he's actually voiced by Ralph. Like that's the reason I was like, it's Ralph.
But man, yeah, this show had a lot of twists and turns. They show a lot of like magical elements as well. A lot of like
they also do a lot of nice like swerves on like fairy tale stuff. Like the stuff they did with Hansel and Gretel, I thought was dope. I thought that was a great like couple episodes.
We get a twist on Hansel and Gretel where they themselves are the actual bad guys, which is really cool. And again, we don't want to spoil too much because we want you guys to check this out and let us know what you guys think in the comments below. But yeah, we get things like Jay said, we get this twist with Hansel and Gretel being the absolute worst. And we get a couple of episodes where Princess Bean is basically trying, since she doesn't want to be the princess, she's basically trying to find her place in the kingdom. So she takes a bunch of different odd jobs. And like Dr. J here mentioned, one of them was she thought she was a butcher and she's chopping up all these animals. She's like, I'm a good butcher. And it turned out she was in a pet shop. But she also ends up trying to become a executioner.
Executioner, yeah.
She just can't pull herself to kill people.
Like she's really good at torture, but which is she's basically just talking about her problems, and apparently that's a form of torture, which I really enjoyed that. And then, but when it comes to actually killing people, that's not out of self-defense. She can't do it because she's killed several people already, but like she can't do it out of that's not out of self-preservation type of thing.
Exactly. And we also get a lot of like really creepy elements to the show as well. We get I want to call him Touchy McFeely. I don't remember what they called him.
Oh yeah, I think they call him Sir Touchy. Yeah, Sir Touchy. It was like Sir Touchy.
So this guy he can't see and he has these hollowed out eyes, but he literally touches everything and he touches it so creepily. And it really made my skin crawl.
And he makes these noises when he touches stuff because apparently, like when he touches stuff, he can like identify any item or any person, and he's just like, oh yeah, and just like oh, it gave you like this kind of like Smeagol Gollum type of vibe, and it was just like oh.
Yes, I didn't catch that initially, but now that I'm playing it back, you're absolutely right, dude. That thing was freaking creepy, dude. Seriously. But yeah, man, it was just absolutely awesome. And a lot of the kills are like these like stupid, dumbfounded like mistakes, if you will.
Yeah.
And those, are brought up for laughs as well, and it's pretty entertaining. And
yeah, a lot of the violence is more slapstick than like gore. Like it's a lot of like, especially like with Elfo. Elfo just kind of accidentally trips into stuff. Like Elfo is hilarious that way.
Right. And Elfo is basically the Fry of this show, if you will. If you're a fan of Futurama, you'll definitely understand where he's in love with Layla in Futurama, where Elfo is actually in love with Bean during the whole thing. And going off of Futurama, you just see how it's all going to end. But it's the journey that's the most.
And I think it's pretty interesting that, like, with Elfo's character, he basically the elf village is essentially the same thing as Smurf village. All the elves basically are named after their jobs, but end with O. And then you got then Elfo. He's like, I like being happy, but I don't want to just be happy. I want to experience all of life, including the shitty parts. So he wants to leave Elfwood. So he like ends up stumbling into the kingdom. And then he again falls in love with Bean, and the journey sets off from there. And Elfo just becomes like a big part of their crew, and like on all these different adventures. It's really fun. I really like Elfo. I think he was the necessary balance to the team because like you got like the cynic in Lucy, you've got the in between with Bean, and you've got like the overly happy-go-lucky like idiot in Elfo, which is great.
And especially like Lucy and Elfo, they play off of each other really well because they're the complete basically in all the cartoons that you ever watched as a kid, you get the demon on one side or the devil on one side and the angel on the other, and they're trying to tell you what to do. That's essentially the what we have with Elfo and Lucy here. Is you have one that's constantly going, oh hey, though Bean doesn't need any assistance to mess things up or mess her life up or make things complicated for herself, she help regardless of her realizing it. Or
like as Bean describes it, Lucy is that bad friend that always tries to peer pressure you into doing bad shit. Like, you don't need like Elfo's like, nah, you shouldn't do those drugs. Lucy's like, fucking do it. Do those drugs.
Like you'll get to see cool things. And she's like, oh, okay. And something like that. And he's constantly doing it. And what's really funny is he is like Lucy is aesthetically off-putting in the show. Like he is drawn differently. He has weird aesthetic. And granted, he's a demon, so it makes a little sense. But everyone else is kind of humanoid or drawn in your traditional way, like the way this
kind of reminds me of like those old 40s cartoons. Like how like those are drawn. Like I don't know if you've ever seen like that weird horror indie game Bendy. Like how Bendy is drawn, it looks like a lot like that.
Right. Plus, his arms are always stuck out like this.
Yeah.
Walking and stuff like that. So he's very just off-putting to the world that he is within. So he definitely stands out in anything that he's in. And for some reason, everyone in the kingdom seems to think he's a cat just because he's got a tail.
Tiny.
I don't know, but I find it pretty humorous, to be honest with
Oh
you.
yeah, definitely.
But yeah, man, definitely, guys. If you have not checked this out, this is I binged watched every episode except for the final episode because it was like after midnight and I had to get to bed. But I caught the last episode and it was one of those things where I wish I would have done the whole thing because I was like all day at work I was thinking about, and then I finally saw it when I came home. So
It's got such an one of the things that, if you're a fan of The Simpsons or you're a fan of Futurama, the best thing about a Matt Groening show is not just the main characters, but all the little fun side characters in the town and in the world. And that's one of the best things about this show. You get to know a little bit about the executioner, the maid lady, the fucking the Vikings, the demon sorcerers, the guy with the three eyes with the eyes wide shut, like sex parties. It's
people said,
real weird.
yeah. I forget what his name was. Merlot, I think his name was.
Yeah.
Merlin character who's trying
the
to
wizard guy.
of life. And what makes the Elfo so special is that his blood is magical. So that's what they're trying to use to create the elixir of life, which is kind of like the big overarching plot of this show. And poor Elfo, man, he gets like sucked nearly dry every other day, like to the point of almost death. And
and I like that they don't they play it for comedy, but it's actually very realistic. Like, he's drained, his color is gone, and he's just like, is it over yet? Are we good?
He basically does it all because he loves Bean and he wants to see them and be around her. So he goes through that torture essentially to be with her. And we get some weird psychedelic episodes where there's like this drug cave, if you will, where everyone goes down and just inhales all these fumes and they see weird things. And you get these really trippy episodes out of that. It's pretty cool, to be honest with you.
In those episodes, they get to have a lot of fun with the art, and it's just really cool.
Right. One thing, though, if I were to say, I don't want to say it as a negative. It's just that I'm a stickler when I see something and I'm like, oh, that would be really cool if they did this, or there's potential for them to go here. And if they don't, I tend to feel like, oh, man, they could have done that. And one of those things was her first pseudo husband, if you will, when he gets his head shoved through the sword. In my mind, I was like, how awesome would it be if throughout the whole series, or at least the whole first season, he was constantly stuck with that sword in his head, and randomly we'd show back up to the throne.
Yeah, you like hear him talking and stuff.
Right, or he just seeing him there while the king is sitting in his throne, the guy's head is stuck in the sword, because if they pull it out, he would die. And I was like, oh, that would be really cool. And of course, we all know what happened to him if you've seen the show. What eventually,
I also just like that that's a Game of Thrones joke too, because it's literally a throne made of swords, just like the Iron Throne.
Yeah, and then his brother, who was your typical like Gaston character,
like Disney, exaggerated Disney prince type.
Right, and he ends up, he's, at least in his mind, he believes himself to be really good looking, and he ends up getting himself turned into a magical pig, if you will, like a talking pig. And we
basically like imagine Donkey from Shrek, but as a pig.
And we get an episode with him just feeling lonely and wanting to be held, essentially, and wanting to go to the dance, but he's essentially a pig. So like he goes to Lucy again, which is the demon, for some help, and he's just like, hey man, you get all the girls, man. Tell me what's going on. What can I do? And he's like, oh yeah, just play up your patheticness. And that just leads to shenanigans with him just like walking up to these girls, dropping down to his side, and he's like,
and he's just like, sad.
Like he's so literal with it. They're just like, what's wrong with this pig? Yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. I definitely give it a 5 out of 5, and it's something that I will revisit. I know
I'm definitely gonna watch this again. I had a lot of fun there. I mean, this is one where you could even you don't even have to watch the whole thing all the time. You could just pick out certain episodes, because there are ones that are definitely standouts. Like I said, the Hansel and Gretel one is great. The one that C-Dubs mentioned with the dance was hilarious, because a giant is involved in that one too. It's great. Like I said, the world is what makes it really interesting, and that's why I think this show is definitely going to succeed, especially if it gets to expand more.
Right, and it's on a unique network where it definitely has the ability. It doesn't have to necessarily do well, opening week. This is something that just has to accumulate enough watch time overall for the second season, which I'm pretty sure it will. Honestly, I don't see, other than the Rotten Tomato score, I didn't see any negative things about it. I did see a couple of reviews, and everybody had positive things to say. I guess the only thing I would have to say is The Simpsons and Futurama, they were a product of their time in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
Even though The Simpsons clearly are still around, Lord knows why. But if you like the show, that's great. I'm myself, I haven't watched it in many, many years. But I feel that this show may end up being the same thing. It could be a product of its time. But then again, I can also see where that humor we may have passed it thanks to the Family Guys and the American Dads and the Bob's.
But I think this works especially because Game of Thrones is such an such an iconic thing, and we're getting a lot of big fantasy stuff, like the upcoming Lord of the Rings show, the Game of Thrones spinoff, and fantasy is definitely on the come up in terms of TV. So I think this will definitely tell itself more over time.
I'm right there with you as terms of the concept. I just mean more that the humor may not be for everybody. We've kind of pushed the bar so far with the likes of Family Guy and those shows that it might be a little difficult to take, if you will. It might seem a little elementary. Then again,
that's also why I'm glad because usually Netflix shows are like an hour long. That's why I'm glad they stuck with like the 30-minute episodes. Otherwise, this would have just dragged. If the fact that they went with a quicker, snappier like runtime means that they get it, that these jokes don't have like super long of a shelf life. You got to just move quick and get over, which is why I think it works well with Netflix, because Netflix is such a binge network where it's like you get over it fast or a long time. If this was a network show, I feel like it would run into the same problems as like a Futurama, a Simpsons, or a Family Guy. But because Netflix has such a long breathing space between its like shows and releases, I don't think it'll have that same issue. Because I think the issue with Family Guy, Futurama, and the likes of those shows is the fact that like those were week to week to week to week. Because we'll get time in between, I think it'll give us enough time to sit and to breathe and to miss the show enough that like when it comes back to season 2, it's just like, oh yeah, this was great.
Right, exactly. I'm right there with you completely. I'm just trying to be looking at it from a different
devil's advocate. I get it.
Negative, because I really don't have anything negative to say. Like, I liked every episode. I liked every character. My only thing that I can say is that, again, I was quick to go, oh, that's the Bender of this show. Oh, that's the Fry of this show.
Yeah.
No, that's this person. So, and again, like I had mentioned, I guess I'm pretty sure we can all assume by the end of it, again, if they're going to make the fans happy, Elfo would have to end up with Bean. On it, just like Fry had to end up with Layla. Granted, it took literally to the very last episode for that to really.
I mean, granted, they're probably gonna have to do a thing where Elfo ends up getting like a human transformation, because
and I think that's
Elfo with Bean would be, as he is kind of weird, because he's a little midget elf dude.
I mean, no weirder than him with the giant, right? And everybody was
yeah. Fair point.
I would say I definitely agree. I think there will be an episode where he is able to embody a human, and that would probably be where she falls in love with him, and realizing that she doesn't need him for his looks, but it's for him on the inside.
Yeah. I definitely see them doing that, like as kind of a way to like do their own spin on the Disney trope of turning into a prince and stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I just hope that people give it a fair shot and don't go into it going, oh, he's just like Bender. Oh, even though it was fun and cool to say, oh, that's the Bender of this.
I enjoy, honestly, as a fan of those shows, I enjoyed that aspect. Like I said, with the Prince kid, I was like, hey, it's Ralph, because not only is he voiced by Ralph, but he like acts like Ralph. Like I eat paste. Like it's definitely that kid.
Right? He said, was it porridge? He said he ate.
Yeah.
porridge or something like
Oh,
that.
I know he mentioned something about being afraid of a big skillet. Like,
Yeah. Because
yeah,
I'm gonna have nightmares about the skillet. And then they're
yeah,
like, episodes later, he's still talking about the skillet, and I was like, that's so awesome that they carried that over. But again, I mean, Universe, check this show out. It's definitely, I promise, if you're a fan of any of those type of shows, this is those adult animated shows, if you will. And again, and it's not
yeah.
just
And Netflix has been knocking it out of the park with adult animated comedies. To be honest with you, like not just this one. They've got Big Mouth. I did watch Brickleberry, and it's hilarious. BoJack Horseman is great. I don't remember the other one.
like it because it was on. Apparently, it was on Cartoon. What not Cartoon Network. Comedy Channel, Comedy
Oh,
Net.
Comedy Central. Yeah.
And I'd never heard of it, and then I saw it there. Now there's a new one. Not to go off on too much of a tangent, because obviously we were supposed to just review this show. But if you like any of those shows, there's another one called Forget About It. This one I found on Hulu, and it is hysterical. It's basically your traditional mafia guy.
Uh-huh.
In the mafia, and then his boss decided he was going to kill his uncle, and he couldn't let that happen, so he threw his boss out the window. So then he had to go into hiding with the FBI. So they put him in like Saskatchewan, Canada, but he's still this big, like typical New Yorker with
Yeah, yeah.
and he's just dealing with all these shenanigans. Like his son is a pansy, and he's not like a tough guy like he was. He's getting bullied by these bunch of pansy Canadians, and his first reaction is to pull out a baseball bat and go pound their heads in. But there's a Mountie that's constantly supervising them, and he shows up always like at the last second. It's absolutely hysterical.
Oh man, I gotta check that out for sure.
Check it out. Yeah, you'll like it. If you like Futurama, Family Guy, American Dad, any of the Brickleberry, any of those shows, this is right in the same vein. Yeah, even like a Rick and Morty. It's same thing
Oh man, yeah.
in that regard. But yeah, Universe. So check this show out, guys. If there, let us know in the comments below. Anything else you want to say about it?
Oh no, just check it out. It's great. You definitely will like it. Also, don't forget we've got plenty of stuff on the channel. Be sure to check out our other videos as well. I just put up Topic Tuesday for the Fantastic Four video. Definitely check that one out. I gave like a whole pitch on who to direct the movie, where I think they could go for the future of the comics, why I think this is perfect for the Disney brand. That's going to be a lot of fun. We got a bunch of other different stuff to come out. We're getting really close to 700, guys. If you want another giveaway to happen, that's the quickest way to do it. Get people to subscribe.
Right, exactly. Again, once we're at 700, we're going to have another giveaway, guys. I promise it'll be a good one. I'm not going to say what it is until we get to that milestone. Once we're there, literally, we just need about 15 more subscribers, guys, and we're there. So let's get there, guys. Thank you again.
And thank you for getting us past 666. Last time we did one of these, we were right at 666 and we got scared. So thanks.
Right, exactly. Universe, again, thank you so much for the love and support. Subscribe on the channel. Click that notification bell. Be part of a notification squad. And guys, until next time, I'm C-Dubs.
I'm Dr. J.
And we'll see you in the universe. Peace.
Peace.